Private label or wholesale? What's the best Amazon strategy? I'm Mike, and today we're going to jump into exploring this question, and hopefully you'll be able to find the answer here. Like any of these videos, it's awesome if you're in the comments. If you have any thoughts on this, if you had an experience in wholesale or private label, like let us know your opinion. I'm going to do my best to kind of paint the picture of both sides, and let's dive into it. So first off, let's dive into private label. What is private label? So private label is where you're essentially launching a product with your own label on it, or your own branding is essentially what it is. A good example of this, like a very basic example, is socks. So you're putting your own logo on those socks, even though they were just basic white socks before, now they're Mike's White Socks. And now I can sell them as Mike's White Socks. That's the basic idea. No one else can sell them because I own the brand. I can get that trademarked or whatever I want to do to try and protect my brand. Now, in a traditional sense, private label's mostly gone away from Amazon, but what people call private label on Amazon is actually like investing even more into product development. True private label is taking a product that's pretty basic and then just literally just slapping a label on it. Now you can't get away with that. You really do need to innovate. Like your sock needs to have a new color, a new material. Maybe it's made out of bamboo, who knows what, but like basically you're investing a little bit more into differentiating your product. There's three things you really need to think about. How are you making your product different from the competition, better than the competition, and special? Those are the three kind of metrics you can use to try and position yourself away from where the rest of the market is. Anyway, so that's the whole idea behind private label. There's some advantages. One, like I said before, you can kind of defend your brand, and it can be really profitable, assuming that you take the time to investigate and find the right niche. It can be extremely profitable for you. Now, some of the cons here is you're dealing with suppliers usually overseas. So most of us have never dealt with an overseas supplier before. So you're figuring out how to vet and find the right supplier for your product. You need to take the time to do the research and figure out if it's the right industry or not. Something you hear people say is that if you have the right product, it's hard to fail. And if you have the wrong product, it's hard to win, right? So doing all the research you can to understand if you have a winning product or not is going to be really, really important. Another con is just the time. It's going to take a while. Like you're not going to find a product and then start selling next week. You need to develop your product, get it to market. Maybe if you have like a killer strategy, you can get your first sale within like the next 4 months, but more realistically, you're looking at a 6 month to a year window going from inception to getting your first sale. And then just initial investment. Some people will say you only need $5,000 to $10,000 to invest. And if you have an execution strategy, maybe you can make that work. I always recommend when I have people ask me that you probably need $25,000 to $50,000 to be able to invest into a private label product, to be able to launch that and actually get it to where you want it to be. Another big advantage of private label is if your goal is to have like the laptop lifestyle, it really can be that. It's a lot of work on the front end, but then on the back end, once you get things really rolling, it is just pretty simple maintenance, reordering, making sure that everything's running well. But it's lots of work on the front end, but maintaining is less work. So if you wanted to be a nomad or whatever, it kind of fits with that lifestyle a little bit better. And then, of course, another big thing is you own everything, right? As you build this brand, someday you could potentially sell it. And some people are selling their brands for millions of dollars. So that's a big pile of gold at the end of the rainbow that lots of people are chasing after. Okay, so now let's go wholesale. Wholesale, you don't own the brands. Maybe you develop a relationship with the brands, but you don't own the brands. What it is, you're selling products that exist already, and you're essentially buying those products from a distributor or a supplier or the manufacturer themselves, the brand, whoever, and then you're reselling it on Amazon. So it's really straightforward. Your margins are a lot tighter, while private label, you're looking at anywhere from like a 20 to a 50% margin on your products. In wholesale, you're really looking at probably like anywhere from like a 15 to maybe a 30 is probably pretty high of margin. Now, big advantage with wholesale, takes a lot less capital to start. Lots of these distributors, their minimum order size is like $1,000 to $2,000, which is a lot less capital than needing, $20,000, $30,000 to start a business. Now, some of the problems is you're going to end up competing for what's called the buy box. You're competing with other sellers to sell the same product. So not every time when someone clicks buy are you the one who's going to actually be selling the product. So it does take a lot of product research. Both of these methods require a lot of product research, right? But wholesale you're kind of doing kind of a lower level product research on every single product you ever buy, because you're trying to figure out how many should I buy? Am I confident I can sell these through? And you're just diving into every single product you ever buy. Whereas private label, it's one and done. You do massive product research and then you kind of go for it. Now you'll do some critiquing, you'll look at competition, you'll do some adjustments going forward, but with wholesale, it's every unit is product research, every unit you're kind of dialing into. But what this also does is it makes it's super easy for you to pivot. In wholesale, you don't really have a category. You might start selling in a certain category and then switch into a completely other one, and that's totally fine. There's processes to get ungated and that kind of thing, which can get in your way a little bit, but for the most part, it's not the same as like having to develop a whole new line of products like you would in the private label space. So kind of like top to bottom, I know kind of been all over the place. We have private label, upfront investment, you're looking at $25,000 to $50,000 of upfront investment. Wholesale, probably $2,000 to $3,000 to maybe $5,000 of upfront investment. Private label, you're going to need to do a ton of research to be confident that your product could go win. And then wholesale, you're going to need to do research on each product as you sell it, but it's not quite as intense as the private label launch product research. And then time to first sale. In wholesale, it's only like 2 to 6 weeks you could be selling your first product. On private label, probably anywhere from 4 to 12 months. And then as far as your margins go, private label 20 to 50%, wholesale 18 to 25, call it. Yeah, so what are your thoughts? What's the best route? I recommend jumping into whatever seems more comfortable. It makes more sense for you. If you have less capital, wholesale is going to make more sense. More capital, private label is going to make more sense. Lots of time right now and less time in the future, private label makes more sense. If time is the thing that you have, wholesale is going to make more sense. Both of these businesses, you can scale up and get more time as time goes on, but I'd say that the faster one, as far as freeing up your time and maybe getting to that 4-hour work week or whatever you want to call it, is going to be private label. But once again, there is that initial investment of both time and money to get you there. So that's all I have for wholesale versus private label. Hopefully you can figure out which model is best for you and run with it.